Political analyst Juwon Sanyaolu is a representative of the Socialist Workers and Youth League, a social justice organization there in Nigeria. He's also a national coordinator of Take It Back Movement in Nigeria. He joins us now to talk about this. A very good evening to you, Juwon. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So this is the first of its kind, we say. What spurred on the adoption of this bill?
Oh yes, thank you so much for having me. Well, I think the recent bill passed by the National Assembly related to the students' bill is it's not a step that is exciting really, because we have a problem in this country of copying things that really have not even benefited others, especially where they copied it from. You would notice that in the United States, for instance, today, the student loans have become more of a problem. In fact, I know for certain that Barack Obama couldn't pay his student loan until he became America's president. So the student loan had never been a policy that had even worked in a place like the United States of America, but it is bound to be much more terrible in Nigeria, given the socio-economic indices in the country that is far worse. But I also think that it is an attempt by the Nigerian state to divert people's attention away from what ordinarily should be its responsibility of funding education, and which in a lot of ways have been the center of agitation of both students and lecturers, especially under the aegis of the academic staff union of universities. So I think what we have here is a deliberate attempt to shift the job of actually funding education to millions of poor parents, and then get them, poor parents and their children, and then get them indebted to a loan that they will not be able to pay off for a lifetime. Even in Nigeria today, there is no guarantee in the first instance that when you get out of the university that there are jobs waiting for you. Jobs are nowhere to be found. Even if you decide that even business, the environment isn't business friendly even for small scale, medium people, because of various circumstances of insecurity everywhere. So the country is neither business friendly or job friendly, and yet you are hoping to heap the burden of education funding in addition to loan on parents and their poor children. So it isn't a move that
so
is
Juwon,
tactical.
I'm curious about this. Parliament saying that it is to ensure that students get more financial support from government. So I'm wondering what other financing agencies or schemes that government has or is already rolling out, and how does this one differ?
Is it the bill stated that it intends to provide loans for tuition only, and that means that, and emphasis on tuition. The implication now is that the government is willing to bring up to introduce some sort of high level. Already the education system is commercialized, but it's about to get worse. That is exactly the problem here. There is a committee led by one Professor Wale Babalakin that actually took over from a report of a certain committee that was instituted in 2012. The committee was Steve Oronsaye committee. What this committee recommended is that students should begin to pay between the sum of 450,000 to 525,000 naira. This is exactly where the Nigerian state is going into. It's going into full-blown education commercialization, and then distract us with a loan for tuition. That is, by the time they bring school fees to that level, we will see a reason to go borrow money. But the fact of the matter here is that Nigerian students cannot even afford the kind of debt you want to impose on them, number one. Number two, the issue is also that the Nigerian state has everything within its disposal to fund qualitative education. These were the hallmark of these demands of the lecturers who had proceeded on strike multiple times. And if you permit me, you will recall that in 2009, there was a needs assessment committee that was put together jointly by the Nigerian government and the striking university lecturers. These committees recommended that for Nigerian universities to at least compete minimally with global standard, it needed to inject 1.3 trillion naira into the system. The government failed to do all of this, and instead it intends to push this burden of adequate funding on poor students and their parents. This exactly are the issues. The loan is the loan. We insist that the loan is draconic and unacceptable, and gross responsibility on the part of the Nigerian state, rather than looking into student loans to fund tuition, emphasis on tuition, in order to justify education commercialization. We insist that adequate funding of education is the solution, and not putting the debt burden that has not even worked in America.
You spoke about the commercialization of education, Juwon, just a short while ago, and I understand that according to this law, the banks themselves will have the powers to allocate and disburse the loans, but I'm wondering, what is the policy on who qualifies for this loan and who determines that? And I'm also wondering about things like interest, the period of the loan, who then makes that decision? Is it the government or is it the bank?
Yes, I think much of the responsibility is placed on the bank, at least based on what I interpreted of the document, and then the eligibility for accessing the loan, of course, is the fact that you must be an undergraduate of any tertiary institution, and that you must be someone who earns below, that your parents must be earning below 500,000 naira. These are some of the indices. These are some of the indices that the bank would have to consider, because it is practically the bank that awards these loans. I think that's but in any case, if we were, like I said earlier, we should point. I want to point out the aspect that even stated that you must be earning less than 500,000 naira to be able to access the loan, and that even shows clearly what we are talking about, because it means that millions of people, there's a statistic that just said that over just 0.6% of Nigerians have 500,000 naira in their bank account. So interestingly, you are trying to place the bulk of education funding on millions of Nigerian parents who don't even have monies in their bank account. So it's like I said earlier, what we have before us is a bill that is draconic, and it's not in the interest of the Nigerian people. It is never served to meet the interest of the Nigerian people, and the Nigerian state should not deviate from its responsibility of funding education and then moving it, placing that responsibility on poor parents and their children. It remains the job of the government to fund this education and not distract us.
So the loans are due to be paid back as soon as one finds employment. Is it immediate, or is there at least a period of time within which then you are compelled to start paying the loan? Because one might find a job now, and given the current socioeconomic circumstances that we're seeing globally, one could end up losing their job within 3 months.
Yes, according to the loan bill, you have to pay the moment you get a job. You have to pay. You have to start paying 10% of your income. I think the same goes for persons who are self-employed. So those are what I don't really have details as to the length of our payment. But the point is that, just like the point is also of the fact that, is in the earlier position I've talked about. It is in the fact that the loan in question, Nigerian people are going to be indebted. They are likely to be indebted for life, by virtue of the fact that there are no jobs. to ensure that they're able to repay these loans. And even when their jobs, salaries are not adequately paid. The millions of Nigerians are being paid 30,000 naira minimum wage. How would they afford a tuition of over 400,000 naira? These are the issues. So what we say is that the effect, the same way it has not worked in the United States of America, it is never going to be a policy that will work in a Nigeria where millions of its citizens are grasping with the menace of mass unemployment, grasping with the menace of poverty. I think, and it is the reason I keep returning to the issues that the loan, this loan bill is a conscious distraction and abdication of responsibility by the Nigerian state.